Hi there, I'm Darren Howard.
And I'm Robert Nisbet.
We're continuing our pipelines and spins and oil spills and all of that nonsense and taking a non-propaganda look at things.
And of course, there was a former employee of Imperial Metals who did blow the whistle on what was going on at the mine and the response that the full consideration he got from the Ministry of Mines and Resources.
Remember the ridiculousness of Christy Clark in part one saying that, well, we don't know who to blame. We know who to blame, and a former employee's got it. Check this out.
Gerald McBurney says he worked at the Mount Poly mine for 7 years. He claims he was responsible for the tailings pond that breached Monday. In June, he quit his job.
One of the main reasons was the stress. I fought those guys for 2 years, the management at Poly, to get rock like they were supposed to and build the dam properly, doing my job, and then they would not do the stuff that you wanted, so I just couldn't take it anymore.
McBurney says he warned the company that it needed to reinforce the dam with millions of tons of rock so it could properly handle the increase in water.
Like, they needed to put in 5 million tons around the dam because they added 5 times the amount of water. That dam was never designed to hold 5 times that amount of water.
McBurney, along with several other current employees, say there was a breach of the tailings pond, which holds the mine's wastewater, back in May. The company denies this. The government admits Imperial Metals was hit with 5 warnings in the past 2 years. Only one, however, is related to the tailings pond.
So they have had 1 warning. They were instructed to remove water from the tailings pond in May of 2014, actually on May 24th. They did that by pumping water out of the tailings pond into an empty pit and got themselves into compliance.
The company has 1 mining operation in Nevada and 4 in BC, including the newest, Red Chris mine, which is under construction up near Dease Lake. The project, worth over $500 million, is expected to be up and running by the end of the year. The government is still investigating what exactly caused the breach. Romina Dea, Global News.
Okay, so you know what? Obviously, Christy Clark and anybody in the mining industry does not have the internet.
And obviously, Christy Clark has the resource sector on her mind at all times in every consideration of every legislation.
Remember, the resource extraction does not create jobs, does not improve our economy, but it certainly improves the profits of the small minority of people who are invested in it.
And another big resource extraction project that's being debated endlessly here in Canada and BC is the Enbridge and Keystone pipelines. And there's been a lot of opposition lately to the Enbridge considerations.
A lot of opposition? How about anybody with a brain cell is standing against the pipelines? And we've got it. Check this out.
From Canada's landlocked oil sands to its mountainous western shore, the Enbridge Northern Gateway pipeline is supposed to carry bitumen to supertankers bound for Asia. In June, it got a green light from the federal government. But opposition is growing. Protesters in the city, rural Indigenous people, coastal communities, of fishermen and tourist guides all object.
We have a sustainable forest industry, we have a sustainable fishery, we have a blossoming tourism industry. And everything that Northern Gateway represents jeopardizes all that we're talking about. We don't need to depend on a product that will destroy the rest of the economy that we already have.
That opinion resonates here in Kitimat, the port at the end of the pipeline. Residents have already voted to reject the project, and town council followed suit.
The thought of petroleum supertankers making their way through these intricate coastal waters is something that horrifies many people who live and work along the coast. But the fact remains, Canada needs to get its oil to market, and that market in the future will increasingly be Asia.
Whether it's Northern Gateway, the contentious Keystone XL project to the U.S. Gulf Coast, or others, crude oil pipelines are becoming more, not less, controversial here.
Building pipelines are a national priority. The part of the challenge is that we're not really having a national dialogue about it. We also need to understand that the various groups that are involved all have valid interests.
If ways aren't found to balance those interests, to protect water and wildlife and win support from local communities, then new pipelines may not be built for years, if at all. Realizing its vast petroleum potential is proving a challenge for Canada.
So everyone from First Nations to tourism guides to everybody is against this pipeline coming through BC.
And remember that this pipeline means that we're going to be shipping oil to China at a larger basis. So of course, China can use it, and they have less environmental standards than we do, even after Stephen Harper hacked all of the standards to, drive these pipelines through.
And speaking of pipelines, another pipeline has been in the news lately, the Keystone XL project, which has been in limbo for who knows how long. And apparently a report's come out saying that it will release 4 times the carbon emissions than initially presented in the Senate report.
Really? Say it's not so.
Yeah, it's a few more million tons than they said it would release.
Fortunately, we have a clip.
Check it out.
The environmental headbutting heating up with a claim turning on the Keystone XL pipeline's tap could be an even bigger hit to the environment. Published in the journal Nature Climate Change, the Seattle-based Stockholm Environment Institute says greenhouse gas emissions for the project are much higher than reported by the U.S. State Department. The authors estimate the pipeline could create 110 million tons of CO2. The U.S. State Department has previously estimated 27 million tons of greenhouse gases. The reason, researchers say, is supply and demand. The pipeline's capacity will mean cheaper prices per barrel and therefore increased use. The Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers disagree.
From our perspective, an oversimplification of what happens.
CAP says the researchers' economic argument doesn't make sense and says the idea that world energy demand would spike with the Keystone is wrong.
It's just going to be providing oil into the U.S. market that will help with energy security, displacing oil that has similar greenhouse gases from other places in the world, and the net result is really no increase in greenhouse gas emissions.
In a statement, the government says the report is based on false assumptions. 1, that stopping the pipeline would slow down the oil sands, and 2, that the U.S. would likely get the energy from dirtier sources like the Middle East. The NDP disagree and say the report is further evidence to kill the project.
For the Harper government to try to dismiss people who are raising real concerns about Keystone simply is an irresponsible attitude.
The U.S. president isn't expected to make a decision on the much-delayed project until after the American midterm elections in November. But this report is only adding fuel to the fears that Obama will kill the proposal, forcing the Harper government to find another way to unlock the oil sands.
So predicting an absolutely huge, catastrophic impact on our future generations.
And of course, you have the oil company representative with that same inevitable spin telling us it's, no, we disagree with that report because, it's supply and demand.
Yes, listening to an oil company representative is sort of like listening to the RCMP explaining the last murder that they oversaw. Of course, we can take a look at what they're saying. One of the things that they were saying is you have to have a response plan. You have to have cash set aside in case you have a spill. There's guaranteed they're going to have a spill. But what exactly are the standards they're talking about for cleanup?
Well, recently they held a drill in Burrard Inlet and seeing how well they would respond to the inevitable oil spill that will occur.
The number is freaky. Remember, 15%. While you look at this clip.
So where are we, Carlene?
We're here on the Burrard Inlet, checking out the oil spill drill, directly in front of the Tsleil-Waututh First Nation Reserve.
What does this oil spill drill tell you about the risks that this project is facing?
It speaks to the inevitability of an oil spill happening. And I think what concerns Tsleil-Waututh most is that no spill can be cleaned up, that we understand the product coming through Trans Mountain Pipeline will be dilbit, and there's no 100%, nobody knows how to clean up dilbit. That's a fact. They've done tests in laboratories, but we're out here in the real world and nobody knows how to clean up dilbit.
What's your understanding of what a world-class response would achieve?
World-class response, I think, is just a cover. Doesn't hold the same tone as effective or a guaranteed. Like world-class is just something that makes you feel good. It's a feel-good phrase. As we know, industry or the acceptable cleanup recovery is 15%, you know, but where does that 85% go? It goes into the air, it goes into the water, so it will have a direct impact on those systems, on those ecosystems, on human beings' health in this area. And Burrard Inlet, it can't clear out anything if they're going to depend on a tide to take some spill away. You know, it's only going to go out so far, then it's going to be pushed back in by the tide. So it's going to be stuck here. It will be stuck here.
So listen to it, man. I mean, she's got it bang on the money.
Yeah, she's talking about spin again. Is that spin is a world-class response. Doesn't mean it's an effective response.
No, not at all. 15% cleanup, saying that that's suitable. I would say 100% cleanup from any mess. Anybody who's raised any teenagers knows exactly what we're dealing with, but a teenage mentality is pretty well what you have when you're talking to the government. I'm really glad we're inheriting this ridiculous system of governance.
And we can see how well these standards are when we look at the Exxon Valdez spill and the BP spill that happened in the Gulf of Mexico.
They're still cleaning up the Exxon Valdez. Oh, actually, they stopped cleaning it up, but the oil's still there. And remember, in the Gulf in Texas right now, there's a sea of oil that's underneath the ocean that just sits down at the bottom, causing carcinogens to be spread throughout the ocean. And of course, you're saying that's cleaned up.
Actually, there's these huge tar islands washing up on the coast of Florida. And of course, that's not being reported either.
But we have a ha-ha.
Did you know that Canada is one of the largest producers of mustard in the world?
Yes, and I did not know this.
And we must get that mustard to market. It's important to our mustard, our mustard security of the world.
Yes, our stability in mustard. So wearing a yellow t-shirt today for you, we bring you this.
Canada, the world's leading exporter of mustard, produces 80% of global mustard supplies and is now poised to solidify its position as a mustard superpower with the proposed Northern Gateway Mustard Pipeline. Changes to Canada's formerly strict condiment review process mean that the mustard pipeline can be fast-tracked, delivering mustard from Saskatchewan to the West Coast, where tankers will ship it to plain sausage and hamburger markets around the world. Local residents worry about the dangers of a potential mustard spill, but important safety measures like large napkins and the odd bottle of stain remover minimize the risk. Prosperity for hot dog vendors, responsible spreading over bread or bun, a bright yellow future. The Northern Gateway Mustard Pipeline, your partner in taste.
So remember, when our mustard security is being threatened by those people standing in the way of pipelines, we must stand our ground.
Because we have ethical mustard.
I love doing this show. It's so good to have you tuned in. We also have to say one more thing. Thank you very much for all the likes and shares. 75,000 views was cracked on Radio Free Canada, on our YouTube channel, and from me to you. Thank you for tuning in to our non-propaganda view as we bring you independent media for an intelligent mind.
We couldn't have done it without you, our viewers.
No, not at all. So, I remain Darren Howard.
And I remain Robert Nisbet. And I want to ask, what do you stand for?
And what were you doing when we were sewering the planet? Thanks for being part of the solution. Remember, be the change you want to see in the world.
For spouse and other heirs, including future spouses and children and other descendants. They will... Who writes this stuff? God, it's amazing. Are you guys lost like I am? It's like nobody talks the way that this stuff is written. Some intern at NBC News Channel writes this crap.
Filled in a little bit, filled in with some air,
okay,
not
so
as low of pressure, but Camille. Let me talk, Carol.
Translate that for us. I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
Well, if you would let me talk.
Okay.
After that, we like that with a couple of shower chances by the time we get to Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And thanks for the hard-to-get applause, Nicole and Kevin. Yes.
How's that, Carol? Is that good enough for you? Okay, I'll try a little harder next time. Thanks so much. Meanwhile, a high-speed chase with...